Um, Today, we are focusing on our hosts. This is our product updates webinar for March of 2024. My name's Becca. I lead the US Solutions Consultants team. I've also got Richie with me. If you want to say
Hey
hi.
everyone. Hey everyone.
Awesome. Richie's one of our co-founders, so really glad to have him here. And then, of course, we have a lovely team that's helping with Q&A. So please, 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 if you have questions, that's what we're here for. We've got Adam, Aviva, and Aditya joining us to help with questions, and we really appreciate their help. But awesome. So thank you all for joining and answering our poll. Looks like we've got a large group here from Europe, decent number from, worldwide, mostly Europe, Latin America, Canada, Asia. Very cool. If you're from Asian Pacific, thank you for joining. I know it's probably a little bit later where you are. Definitely have a decent number of people who have been using PriceLabs for some time. So hopefully you're coming here to, learn a little bit about what's new and maybe some best practices. If you haven't started yet, hopefully this will give you some insights into sort of how PriceLabs works. But yeah, without further ado, we'll hop on in. So today's agenda, so we run these product update webinars monthly to give you all an idea of what our team has been working on so hard on. So today we're going to go over a couple of new things, mostly, and I guess the theme this month is, visibility. So making sure that you are able to sort of understand your settings, understand what's going on in the market. And we're going to start with our new customizations view, as well as we'll move on to the notes and history. We'll touch on logs a little bit. We'll show you the new information that you can see in neighborhood data regarding events and holidays. And then we'll also talk about the last 2 years' data now being available in market dashboards. If y'all have any questions regarding any of these topics, please do put those in the Q&A and our team is standing by. So I'll get started here. So we're going to move over. Oh, sorry. New slide. I also want to just point out, especially if you are new, just getting started, have joined in the past month or so, or even if you are just looking to get a little bit of a brush up on some of the basics of PriceLabs or some more advanced features, do keep in mind we do run trainings every single week and sometimes monthly to help you all make sure that you're getting the most out of our tools. So PriceLabs Basics is ran daily here in the US and I believe weekly in other languages. Advanced PriceLabs features is run weekly in all languages. And then we have Understanding Market Dashboards and Understanding Portfolio Analytics run at the beginning of each month in English. So you can use this QR code and actually it'll take you to our trainings page where you can sign up for any of these additional trainings. Awesome. So diving on in here, we're going to talk a little bit about the new table view for managing your customizations. So our main goal here is to increase visibility on your pricing rules. So this is going to give you a bird's eye view of all of your customizations. You can export this if you want to analyze things offline, and it's going to just allow you really to quickly identify what's going on in your account. Many of you may be using groups. This is our host webinar, so you might be a smaller user who isn't taking advantage of groups, but I will show you here. So if you aren't familiar with our customizations page, so I'm on market dashboards here, but you'll go to dynamic pricing and this customizations page. Now on this page, we've always summarized what all of your settings are. You can see here, I have my PMS connected. I've got, PriceLabs last minute prices. I have a minimum stay rule suggested. With one account makes it relatively easy to see what's going on, but as soon as you are looking at your listings, it might be a little bit hard to kind of understand exactly what is applying to each listing just very quickly. So what we've done is we've introduced this new table view, which you all should be able to access in each of your own accounts. So here, every single one of the possible customizations is listed. And if there is something that's actively applying, you'll actually see a little check mark here. So for my listing Charlotte's Web, you will see that there's a minimum stay that's active. I can hover over it to get a little bit more detail here. Now, with PriceLabs hierarchy, you might be using account level rules in addition to maybe groups as well as listing level rules, which can also somewhat be maybe a little bit confusing as to like where each customization is applying. So you'll notice here where I have account level settings applying at a listing, this is also really easy to just see. So hopefully this will make your lives a little bit easier, allow you to sort of audit your listings and your settings. And of course, if you want to, you can always download all of your customizations for your listings into a CSV, whether you want to save it for some reason or you want to analyze it offline, you are more than welcome to do that. Anything I'm forgetting, Richie?
No.
Great.
I think,
Any,
yeah,
yeah, any questions come up that we need to chat about?
don't think so, Becca.
Okay,
Nothing on this.
beautiful. So, do you want me to pass this to you for the next bit?
Yeah, cool. Becca, you can move to the next slide. So what we've added, we've had notes in PriceLabs where you could, at listing level, add notes so that you could remember some of the things that you were doing. But it was like a single notepad that you kind of had to rewrite over and wasn't as good to use. What we have now done is introduce something like a notebook that you can use, and you can basically record anything that you're trying to write, that you're trying to remember, right? You typically do this at a listing level. So we've launched this at listing level. Over time, we'll also launch it at various other levels, but today it exists at listing level. And typical use cases that I've seen are sometimes if you're an owner and you're trying to record certain rationale for why you've changed something, you may record that. If you're a property manager and you've heard from owners about certain things or certain changes that you need to make and you want to record that as a rationale. If you have a larger team and if you want to communicate with your team and you want to leave that in, that's another reason why we have done that, right? Why I've seen people use that. So you see that listed on left here. Let me quickly show this to you as to how you'll see this happen in PriceLabs, and then we'll talk a little bit about one additional feature that combines with notes and makes it a little bit easier for you to understand your actions. Becca, can I share my screen? I can. Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
sure.
All right. Hopefully you can see my screen now. And I think Becca's nodding, so I can see. I assume you can see my screen now. And hopefully you're familiar with this view already. This is the listing level view, and you've probably used this calendar quite a bunch already to move past these dates and to see how your prices are doing. Where you'd find notes is at the bottom of the right hand screen, right hand of the calendar, and you'd see notes as a section. And now what you can see here pop up is a recent note, which this is again a test note. So it just says this is a note for testing, but you can imagine you can write this note for whatever use case, right? Previously, this used to exist, but there was only one note. Now you can kind of add a notebook. So like I can click on all notes and I can see here are like two notes that I've added. Again, like both added today only, but you can see this note for testing and this is a test note, and you can imagine more notes going in. You can also edit this note uh, to say something else, and then once you edit the note, you'll see that the time on that note changes, right? The date hasn't changed because it's still March 28th, but the time on the note changes. You can of course delete the notes as well. And then if you wanted to just add a brand new note, you could just add a brand new note, right? Hopefully this helps you stay aligned on if you're trying to make a change, and rather than recording that somewhere in a notebook, you can use this PriceLabs tool as a notebook to record that change. Having said that, sometimes you may not record that change, and you're wondering if I made that change or when did I make a certain change, etc. So if you click on the right-hand top side where you can see your initials, usually, you'll hop into logs. And if you go into logs, you'll be able to see the actions that you have taken on certain listings. These are actions that you have taken and generally saved actions, and not like if you've navigated from one place to another or anything, that doesn't get saved. But say I want to see, hey, at listing level within the last month, I could change these dates, but I'm going to leave it as is. And for all listings, what actions, and for all actions, I could see certain actions, but for all actions, what actions have I taken? And you could see here very simply, hey, I added a listing note. It used to say this is a test note, and now it says this is a test note for webinar. You could also see other listing notes, etc., that I've added in the last month. So I've not done a whole lot on this account in the last month. But if I went back further on this account, I could see more things. For example, I toggled prices on and turned them off, and this shows you the local time on your own calendar. Sorry, on your own computer, right? It also shows you the IP. So hopefully this is your own IP, like this is your own IP. Um, you can see other things like listing customizations. I updated my customization to go from something to a more detailed customization, or I removed a specific date, specific override. So you can use that to also understand some of the changes that you've made. So two things here. One, we've introduced notes at listing level. You can use it as a notebook to record and remember things that you've done. And secondly, you can come to logs and see some of the changes that you've made if you're wondering if I made that change or when did I make that change, right? You can also see that at log level if you've not maintained a notebook of a change. Yeah, cool. Becca, back to you. Any questions on that? So I see Eric is I think it was already answered, but I saw a question come up from Eric, wherever that went. Does the note itself attach a specific date or dates inside the calendar? The note doesn't attach itself to a date on a calendar today, but in future we will have certain date specific notes. But if you want to leave a note on a specific date, you can always add an override, not make any change on the override, but leave a note on the override because you're sharing screen. If you're going to go to the pricing calendar, if you can show that.
Yep, I've got probably 50
I can share my screen.
tabs open, so I don't
I,
know.
I'm still on my screen. I can share my screen if you want to stop.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, one thing that we should have highlighted before, we do have a lot of participants on this call, and if all of you start clicking the same buttons as we are, we don't normally see these many people clicking at the same time. So our infrastructure isn't designed for it. So generally follow along and maybe do the like try to click through later. We will, of course, send the recordings. But if you can see my screen, and Eric had a question about date specific. So these notes today aren't date specific. We are making two more improvements to this. One, we are adding a reminder. Actually, three improvements, reminders, right? So you could not just add a note, but also say, hey, remind me about this note on, I don't know, May 31st, right? That's number one. Number two, today these notes exist at listing level, but we're going to add them at group level, account level, and also make some UI. We're still figuring out how, but make some UI so that you can access these notes at any level and not just go to the listing level. Number three, the date specific notes that Eric asked about. But what you could do today is you could drag select and say for this date, you don't have to make any changes here, but you can add a reason. This is a test for a webinar. And so I do have this, like I can add. Oh, I did not know this. Oh, sorry. This is a hack. What you could do is you could make a percent change, and I'm hoping this allows me to do this, 0%. And this is, and if it doesn't work, I'll be very sad. But basically I've made a change, like basically no change, and I can add this as a note. And so that note will pop up. I'll see this is a test note. It's no change on actual recommendation, but a test note gets saved. It's a hack. We're working on actual solution for it as well on the notebook. Okay, back to you, Becca.
So my page did finally load. Make sure this is the right one. Okay. Awesome. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about events and holidays in our future pricing chart. Now, again, sort of coming back to this sort of visibility and understanding of your pricing strategy and also the data that's going into your pricing. So now you can actually see on your future pricing chart, we've highlighted dates that we are picking up as holidays that are local to your area. So if I hop in here and I'm going to go to one of my listings, you'll notice, and I'll go to like the, an obvious holiday, say the like 4th of July weekend. If you hover over any date, this is something that we've had for a while. You'll notice in our tooltip that at the top, you're going to see Independence Day there. So we've always been, or as of recently, we've been highlighting what holidays are showing up on this tooltip, but sometimes our users really like to look at this neighborhood data tab and they have questions. They say, hey, why are my prices so high on this date? And then you'd have to come back to the calendar and go back and forth to kind of figure out what's going on. So now in neighborhood data, if I open this up, and again, should have closed a bunch of tabs before joining the webinar. Beautiful. So you'll notice your future prices chart is the first thing that you'll see here. Now, all of the data, if you aren't familiar with this, our basic webinar is a really great place to start. We go in depth into sort of how to read this chart. Of course, if you all have any questions, we can always go over it at the end. But you'll notice at the bottom here that there are sort of like these pink highlights along the x-axis. And these are actually the holidays and events that we're picking up in the market. So if I hover over these dates, for example, this is Memorial Day, Saturday, March 25th, or it's Memorial Day weekend, I suppose. We've also got, as we were looking at before, Independence Day over a couple of days in July. So again, really just trying to improve the visibility and give you an idea of, hey, maybe why are my prices, spiking for this date? You can quickly reference what that holiday is. Now, sometimes we don't necessarily know what the holiday or event in your market is, right? Maybe there's like an annual car show that's super important in your town, but isn't really maybe nationally known. You can always give us some feedback on both how we're pricing your properties, but also what the event in your market is. So on your pricing calendar, you'll see this event holidays area. You can either view all of the holidays that we're picking up, and you'll notice that most of them will have names, but some of them, maybe we're picking up market signals, like for April 27th, for example. And maybe that's like a college graduation or a car show or something. If you want to add feedback, you can let us know what's going on there. You can also tell us, hey, do I think that my prices are too low, too high? And this is going to go directly to our data science team for them to evaluate. You can also add, you can also report events if you're not seeing any event on sort of that drop down that we had. But hopefully this can help again improve visibility, give you an idea of what's going into your pricing, and maybe even if you're noticing that there are certain events around these dates, maybe you want to change like your minimum stay strategy, put in a minimum price, things like that.
Very cool. Becca, can you also quickly talk about where do we get event data for a location from? Or I can
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you want to, or I can, either way.
go for it.
Yeah. So we use a combination of data sources for our events. So one that I just spoke about is our users are a really good source. So as you report events or give us feedback on events, that's always going to be taken into account. We do also have an internal events database that we've been keeping track of over, so many years. So if there's an event or a holiday that repeats every year in the market, like a graduation or like a 4th of July or something, that's just going to be baked into our pricing already. And then there is sort of a third area too, and this is our sort of forward-looking demand. So we are looking for both price signals as well as occupancy signals in your market to determine whether we think that there might be an event or not. So that could be something like a conference, something that maybe doesn't happen every year, but is still having a significant impact on the demand in your market. And those are ones that you'll actually see on our events list as unlabeled. So again, if you have any insight to what those events are, we'd be happy to have you share that with us.
Very cool. I think there's a question on how quickly does, if you report an event, how quickly does it get incorporated? Patrick, quite honestly, it depends on what kind of a backlog that we have at that time, right? Having said that, if you're reporting an event and if you know what the price pattern for that would be, I would generally recommend adding an override, right? For example, if you know an event and you think PriceLabs is underpricing right now, I'd say add an override, and Becca can quickly show how to add an override, right? But add an override so that a minimum price override particularly, right? And let that set so that till like while our team's evaluating that event, we can add that. And sometimes it might be that you might feel that there is an event and for which you want to increase and add prices, right? But our team may not necessarily think that that event should have that price based on the data that we're looking at, and so we may not consider that. So if you do want to cover your events, minimum price override is the best way to do it. Now, so uh, Jason's asking, if we have a special event in our area, do we apply it to each property, or will the adjustment apply to multiple properties in the area? Jason, again, on this, like once you submit an event, we are going to evaluate it and we are going to add it to our database. But do note that if an event already is having a occupancy impact or a price impact in your neighborhood, we're going to take it into account, even though if we know the name of the event or not, right? So the name of the event is more a functional characteristic, that it's good to know what the name of the event is. But because we track what's happening in terms of price and what's happening in terms of occupancy, we're going to, if that event is going to have an impact, we're going to take it into account already in the algorithm, right? So this is more a visual activity in most cases, unless there is an event that uh, is not having an impact yet, and you want us to take it into consideration because maybe it just has a very last minute impact, right? And the dates are still far out, and the impact is not yet getting shown. Cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, Christine's asking, can we do this again? How do we add a lower price? Oh, where did that thing go? Someone answered it. How do we add a special lower price for or any other time when we want to run a special lower price for a holiday or so again, date specific override, but yeah, maybe we can just quickly touch on date specific override, Becca, usability of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So date specific override is just that. It's basically, you can think of our customizations as sort of the ongoing strategies that are shaping your pricing day to day. A date specific override is you basically saying, hey, we're going to do something different for these specific dates, whether that's a different minimum price, just a price adjustment in general, maximum price, or even minimum stay. So to do that, it's very easy. You can either just click on your calendar and select a couple of dates, or you can, on the right-hand side over here, you can click add right there. So you have a couple of options here. You can adjust your dates at the top. So maybe I want to do the 28th through the 31st. Oopsies, we'll do that, 4 nights. You can do a price adjustment. So either a percent change on recommended. So if say my prices were $100 for each of these days and I did a 20% increase, then my prices would be 120. I can also decrease prices this way. You can also set fixed prices. So if I want my prices to just be $100 a night flat, this is going to override any of your other settings. So we're not going to make adjustments on this. A fixed price is essentially your final say. You have those same options with your minimum and maximum price as well. So you can do percent change on your minimum, a fixed minimum. We do have the option to do a percent change on your base price for both your minimum and maximum. I personally don't recommend this, especially if you're getting started. It seems like it's typically applied more as a mistake than on purpose. Sometimes it's useful, but it just requires sort of different math, right? If you're changing your minimum price, it makes a little bit more sense to do a percent change on min. very few like edge cases, this base price option will apply. So stick to fixed or percent change on base. You can, sorry, fixed or percent change on min or max. You can also change your minimum stay here if you have a PMS that allows us to control check-in, check-out restrictions. That's also, you also have that ability. The PMS that I'm connected to does not. Then we do have some other advanced settings here. So if you want to set an expiration, maybe you want to do a special and discount your prices for the next 2 weeks. But then after 14 days or within 14 days of arrival, you want to raise your prices again. You can have it disable at a set time. You can also, if say you're setting this up for a specific holiday for 4th of July, you can go ahead and copy this to all of the 4th of July's between now and like 2020, 8 or something. And then you can also apply this to a specific day of week. So if you want to maybe highlight all of August and just lower the prices just for Fridays, then you would just select Friday. You wouldn't have to do, 4 or 5 different overrides all at once. So hopefully that's a good overview. But again, if y'all aren't sure of some of these more like basic concepts, do join our 101 or our basic onboarding webinar or our advanced webinars, which we can drop a link to if needed.
Very cool. Okay.
Did you want to take this one or do you want me to?
Go for it.
Okay, cool. So finally, something else sort of more data related. We did just, after many requests, and definitely makes sense, we've added more data to market dashboards. So in our market history graphs, our supply and demand graphs, price and occupancy graphs, and length of stay by stay date chart, these all now have 2 years of past data. So the markets have been changing. Probably each of you have experienced this if you've been operating for some time since COVID. So by giving you a little bit more history in the market, hopefully you're able to understand a little bit better maybe what direction the market is trending in. So I do have a market dashboard report open. So we'll take a look at that. So this is a very small market. So some of the data is going to look probably a little bit funny. But you'll see here, so first we've got this market history area. You can see now 2 years worth of data in the past. So you can see whether maybe, this July or, July of 2022 was low compared to July of 2023. That might give you a little bit of a sense of how July of 2024 might develop. Of course, you can always download these charts as well if you want to take your analysis offline. We also have this supply and demand chart. Now, this is a really good one to have more data for because, again, looking at trends over time. So in this market, you can see there's very few listings in this market, but the number has grown over the past 2 years, but potentially started to maybe level off in the past couple of months. I really like that we now see more data at the average bookings per listing chart. So essentially what this is showing you is, say we have 100 listings in the market and 100 bookings come in 1 week. Essentially the average number of bookings per listing would be 1. So maybe not every listing got a booking, but there were enough bookings in the market to sort of support every listing. Now this chart can change seasonally, right? So if you're in a seasonal market, people might not be booking for, a lake stay in South Carolina for January, but it's going to be a little bit more popular in the summer. So this chart was a little bit hard to understand before because of the seasonal changes. But here you can kind of see how the seasonal booking trends change, and hopefully it can give you a little bit more of an insight into, again, how the performance will be going forward. In our future occupancy and cancellations, as well as the future prices chart, we, again, still have more data here. Same options to download the CSVs. You can also select date ranges. So if you just want to look at, your 2023 data, you can select those here. You can also double click to zoom all the way out. You'll see all the way back 2 years. You can also use this little bar at the bottom to adjust, and that exists pretty much in all of our charts here. Going down, this is our length of stay and booking window chart. Essentially, what this is showing you is for every given day, we're listing all of the bookings for that day and categorizing them by length of stay. So you can see in this market, 7 to 14 night stays in July are pretty common because we have that sort of big, light gray, lumpy area, which our data team would probably cry to hear me call it a lumpy area. So that is not a technical term. But again, still have that 2 years worth of data so you can really understand how the market is trending. Now, if you haven't seen market dashboards before, again, we do have a webinar, I believe next Wednesday, I believe 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Feel free to join that. We go really in depth into sort of all these charts that we've looked at and talk about how you can use them in your day to day.
I do want to highlight, like, for most users, know that we do dynamic pricing where we take this data into account automatically and are adjusting your rates. It's sometimes when people want to uh, like have more control and understand what's happening in the market, these graphs and market charts are useful, right? But PriceLabs automatically is looking at your market and adjusting rates based on what's happening in the market automatically, right? So it's not that you need to have the market dashboards. Some people, when they like control, they get they want to see that market data. Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Alrighty, I think that's all that we had for right now. Maybe there are certain summary some questions that I saw, Becca, because you're sharing your screen. Do you
Yes.
have the pricing calendar open?
I should.
Cool. I think a bunch of you asked, how do I find notes, right? If I don't see it in my screen, and my apologies, but Becca, so if you're on the screen on the right-hand side top, you'd see those three dots. And if you don't see notes at the bottom on your screen already, click those three dots and you'd see, and this is true for anywhere in PriceLabs, if you see these three dots, right? There are like additional functionalities that exist there. So if you can turn on or off the notes there, and so you'd see that ability. Someone else had asked for very similarly, like, how do I find logs? In order to find logs, if you go into, where you see your initials and you'd see logs, and if you click on that, that's where you'd find logs for your account. I think those are the two that we saw. The third thing that I saw, hey, will this be recorded and how can I rewatch? Yes, this will be recorded. We will send you a recording, usually 24 to 48 hours, although tomorrow a lot of our team is on time off, and then we're walking into weekend, but we'll try to see if we can get this into 24 to 48 hours. We usually upload this on our YouTube channel. If you do PriceLabs YouTube, you'd find our YouTube channel, but we'll also, because you've registered for the webinar, you will get an email from us with the link to that video. There's someone asking what happened to the hyperlocal pricing option. Hyperlocal pricing option still exists. They automatically it automatically takes into account. If you've not migrated to Hyperlocal Pulse yet, Becca, can you go into your PriceLab screen again and just show where to find the Q&A, the help articles, etc.
Yes. So if you're not sure if you are on Hyperlocal Pulse and your computer wants to load faster than mine, awesome. You can add this column. So on this page, you'll see row column visibility and algorithm version. And then it'll add this column here. So you'll see most of my listings are on Hyperlocal Pulse, but I still have maybe this listing that needs to be migrated. If you have questions about migrating, you should be able to just type in HLP. I would assume HLP. Yep, so Hyperlocal Pulse. And this will give you a bunch of options. So how to migrate to Hyperlocal Pulse, any frequently asked questions about the new algorithm. And of course, if you have questions, you can always reach out to our team as well.
Yeah. If you've joined PriceLabs after July, I want to say, of 2023, you're already on Hyperlocal Pulse, so you don't need to worry about that all that much. It's only users who are using PriceLabs July or August of 2023, where they had to go through the migration. Cool. Team, are there any other like very common questions that we could or should answer? I'm just trying to see. Aviva, Adam, anything that
Did
we should?
have a thread going, and
Okay.
Adam asked, okay, so somebody asked, okay, so the data that you have is from Airbnb and Vrbo bookings only, i.e., now that people are booking direct more, there's no way to capture that data. I think that's a really great question. So essentially, our data sources, we have a couple, right? We scrape Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com. We also partner with key data for direct source data, but that's at a market level. And then, of course, we do have that events database that we were talking about that's also informed by you, our users. Um, the one thing that's, there are pros and cons to scraping versus direct source data. And, we could run a whole other webinar on that probably. But one thing that's great about scraped data is that many of the listings that are on either Airbnb or Vrbo may also have a direct site, or they're actually cross-listed, meaning they're on multiple channels. Vrbo and Airbnb tend to be sort of the big ones worldwide. So that's sort of why we scrape those two. But regardless of where a booking comes from, regardless of the booking source, whether that's a direct booking or a booking on Airbnb or a booking on Vrbo, the calendar gets blocked on all of the channels that you're listed on. So say you receive a direct booking, you will also see that your calendar is blocked on Airbnb, Vrbo, and any other channel. So we can actually still pick up that you are getting bookings. We might not know, if somebody called you and asked for a discount because it's, their grandma's like 50th birthday party or something. But we will know that there is a booking on that day, regardless of the source. Hopefully that makes sense.
Cool. Someone's asking on the direct bookings, is it possible to add direct bookings on Portfolio Analytics so that like you could see their direct bookings on Portfolio Analytics? It doesn't exist today, but in future we will be adding that option. Don't have a timeline right now, but we will be adding an option for you to be able to add your bookings into your Portfolio Analytics. Is there an option to scrape data from Booking.com? We do get data from Booking.com as well. We get hotel data from Booking.com that we showcase on each account. So if you're at a listing level where you see calendar data, you'll also see hotel data, and that hotel data comes from Booking.com. We don't get apartments data from Booking.com today, but we're working on getting that in place. Actually, we do get we're going to process it and add it, but today hotels, inns, that kind of data exists, and you can use the drop-down selector at the top to find and change the hotels. And then at the bottom, like if you scroll down for see all the like if you click that show map, you'd see all the hotels that we're tracking and how we're using that to price, right? Clearly looks like wherever this listing is on Folly Beach, there some hotels in next to that property, but a lot more just on the Charleston area. Cool. So if you're picking up direct bookings from Vrbo, Airbnb calendars, then will the adjusted occupancy setting count those directly as bookings? Kim, so like for your own account, because you've connected us to your Airbnb and VRBO, we get your actual data. But for the market, we are only picking up direct bookings, right? But for yours, we get data from Airbnb and VRBO. Now, I'm assuming because direct bookings are just getting added as block there, in which case adjusted occupancy will not account for those today. And I think that is what another user was trying to ask, if we could allow that option in Portfolio Analytics. Is a marketing team hiring? I think we do have some open roles. We have a bunch of open roles at PriceLabs. If you Google PriceLabs careers, you'll see a bunch of open roles that we have. Option to scrape booking.com data, answered this live. Let's see, anything else, team, that we should be answering? Oh, so Someone has a question on strike-through pricing and promotions, right? So there are two things that happen um, on OTAs, definitely Booking.com, and I think Airbnb also had rolled this out, right? Um, you can either run a promotion or your prices are automatically getting discounted, right? So if you run a promotion, for example, to saying, hey, I have like last like book early promotion or something like that, right? In which case, like Booking.com, sorry, Airbnb shows that promotion. The strike through pricing, though, gets calculated based on average of certain dates. So the strike through pricing automatically comes up. I don't know, Becca, if you have, yeah, exactly. Thank you. So the strike through pricing actually on Airbnb comes based on average of your prices and yeah, so like those crossouts will only show up if you have like some automatic like price drops, right? If you artificially inflate your rate and then reduce your rate and on average there is no price drop, then Airbnb will not really show it as a strike through. But if you have like the early bird discount, that shows up separately. So there's a little bit of difference how Airbnb operates this. Please do read this article to understand how strike-throughs actually work in Airbnb. Cool. TripAdvisor. For now, we don't have a TripAdvisor plan to add. Cool. Becca, there's a question, and maybe you know this. Like I think this was asked maybe by the same person twice. How can I block same day check-in?
How can I
If my
block day check-in?
if my yeah
Yeah.
if my PMS does not allow that.
So it's tough to say. So typically blocking same day check-in isn't necessarily a feature that we have, because we can't block your calendar per se. Essentially the reason why we don't do blocks is because we're only syncing to your calendar maybe once a day, sometimes more if you're doing manual syncs or you're taking advantage of our multiple daily sync options. So say somebody, say something happens and, you want to block, you want an extra day for cleaning, right? So you don't want any same day check-in checkouts. If somebody were to book and then, we haven't synced yet, there's the option for somebody to book that. Um, there might be a way using, I don't know that there's really a way to do it just for like today. You
I,
could potentially make your like minimum stay like 99 or something for like in your minimum stay profile. Here, I can show you.
yeah,
That would
I
probably
think
be
now you
what
can do portfolio analytics 0, 0. Sorry, portfolio occupancy. Sorry, occupancy based adjustment 0, 0. But yeah, very last minute being high could also be something that you could do.
to block check-in.
Yeah, like if you like just crazy increase your prices to be like I don't know,
Oh yeah, if you
$10,000.
yeah, you could either way. So either from here, let me show you. So you can either use like your last minute to and say, let's do like 99 for uh yeah. So that would basically say, oh, this is our default. We'll say 2 and 2, and then we'll do our last minute. So within one day, within today, we're gonna have a 99-day minimum, which probably won't won't make that one day bookable. Or what Richie was saying, you can use your occupancy-based adjustments. This is probably a little bit more complicated. I would download this profile and then upload it again to add another column, but you could basically have a 0 to 1 column, or a 0 0 column, and then increase your prices by, I think 100% is, I'm not sure what our maximum increase here is. 200%?
Not fully sure.
Oh, yeah, so you could increase your prices by quite a bit. I think maybe 500%.
Cool.
Learning something new today. Okay, yeah, there might not be a maximum increase there, so. Yeah, so technically not blocking it, but there are sort of workarounds for it. I did see there was one question, sort of closer to the beginning. Is there a way to know how often PriceLabs is changing our dynamic pricing? So how often are you actually changing rates? Now, we are updating your rates if you have sync turned on every single day. Now, just because we're recalculating your rates every day doesn't mean that things are changing. So especially if you're looking really far out on your calendar, like a year or 2 years in advance, if we're not getting updated market data, um, meaning if nothing is changing in the market, people haven't started booking for July of 2025 yet, your prices are going to look kind of static there, obviously. But as we get more information, that's when things are going to start to change more. Also, once our time-based rules start to kick in. One thing that you can review though, and this was released, I think, last month or the month before, is our pricing evolution data. So in neighborhood data, you can actually see how prices change over time. So once this loads, you'll click on more options, and then you can add show price evolution. So you can see exactly what your prices were a couple days ago, 30 days ago. If you've been with us for a while and you've been syncing for over a year, you can actually see what your prices were same time last year. So here you can see my prices 7 days ago. I'll hide the market data to make it a little bit easier to see. My prices 7 days ago were a little bit different, sometimes higher, sometimes a little bit lower. And as we're getting more and more market data and learning how the market is evolving, we're updating our prices in response to that. So hopefully that helps.
Very cool. I do like oftentimes people ask like, hey, like what should I be doing to optimize my account? For the most part, your minimum prices, your base prices, maybe your maximum prices and your minimum state strategy, I think gets you 90% of the way there. And so make sure that you've got those basics right. And if you've not done our 101 webinar, I'd highly recommend doing that 101 webinar. Beyond that, like if there are specific things that you have, for example, with that, your account is generally optimized, right? You may have certain specific things that you may want to tackle. For example, I don't want weekend bookings, or not weekend bookings, but I don't want a booking to start on Friday. I instead want to start on Thursday, or I am not getting midweek bookings and I want to reduce my prices, right? So if there are specific optimizations that you're trying to do beyond what PriceLabs is already automatically doing, right? That's when you start using customizations in PriceLabs. But for the most part, with those settings, PriceLabs is already optimizing. Now, if you have certain goals or if you have certain operational restrictions, you'd probably use those. And like for example, I can't do Sunday check-ins, right? So or I don't want anyone to check out on Sundays, or I during Christmas season, either we'd stay at that house or we'll only allow someone else to book if they book above a certain price, right? So if you have those kind of restrictions, you may want to consider those. But for the most part, if you're where Becca is showing that setup 1 of 5 completed. So for the example, that listing has only its location coordinates correct, which we, by the way, directly get from the integration. The rest 3 things should ideally be done, 4 things that ideally be done, but are not done. So it's not an optimized setup. And then if there are base price changes that we see or minimum prices changes that we see, you will also get a notification. I don't know, Becca, if any of your listings have that. Um,
No.
but you'll see a pop-up just below your base price or your minimum price to saying, hey, you need to adjust this price up or down. But that for the large part is where you how your price is optimized. Why does max price optimize your account? So max price doesn't fully optimize your account. A lot of people want to have max prices because they have a quality of listing in account in their head. And also bookers may have a quality of listing in their head. And some people are really wary about charging a really high amount, but then not delivering the value, and which is why some people have a max price into account. But if you see like the setup, the 1 of 5, Becca, if you can put your mouse again, that yeah, that does not have max price. It has a base price, min price, sync toggle, and stay restrictions. Those are the minimum that we say help. how does base price and minimum rate ensure you get most optimized nightly rates that you get? I mean, that's what the algorithm's based on, right? Base price essentially helps you get the most optimized nightly rate that PriceLabs thinks is the right rate. Minimum rate is really exists because you may have operational limitations of you don't want to go below X, and so that's why it's that's why it's needed. But otherwise, just base price actually helps you optimize your nightly rate. Now, you may have your specific controls on how you want to optimize or how you want to control rates. That's where you may end up adding overrides or using customizations. Like anything else that you're seeing?
Nope, I just chatted a link to everybody. I thought that I had chatted that link to everyone, but I chatted it to us. So check
Okay.
the chat. You should have a couple of links in there to resources if you want. Um,
Alrighty.
let's see. I see that we have a bunch of questions still in the queue. So Suzanne asked, when a property's calendar is blocked for an owner stay, does that affect the revenue numbers in your tools? It depends on how you're connected to us. So different PMSs do give us information regarding whether it's a block or a booking. I would say 99% of them. If you're seeing it in portfolio analytics, we should be identifying blocks versus bookings. For things like our occupancy-based adjustment, again, certain PMSs only send us sort of blocked dates without really telling us the difference between why it's blocked, if it's actually a booking or if it's, like you said, like an owner stay. So if you're unsure if numbers like occupancy numbers like here are looking off, just reach out to our support team and we'd be able to look into that for you.
Yeah. And like it might be that the property management system that you're using is not sending us the difference between a block versus a booking yet, right? But we're working with all property management systems to make sure that happens, right? Um, it's it's not a major part of concern unless like every second day, third day is an owner block, right? You like generally, hopefully, you don't have that many owner blocks, right? But if that exists, please do reach out to our team and support at pricelabs.co, and we'll be able to help you with that.
Yeah, and actually, like, so Adam asked specifically, I think base price help potentially, it just disappeared. So if you have like an owner that stays for like 6 months out of the year and you go into base price help, it'll actually say that there's not enough data letting you know because the calendar is so blocked. But again, if you're seeing anything that just looks out of the ordinary, just reach out to us and we'd be happy to look into it.
Cool. There's a few questions around how do we set up one-on-one sessions, right? So generally, we'd love to help on one-on-one sessions, but at the same time, we want to keep the price of using PriceLabs low. So we do run these training webinars where we can teach one-to-many and teach you specifically how to use PriceLabs. And then if you do have a specific question around of how to do something, we can answer that via chat or email. And then if it's not answered, like a specific question is not answered via that, we can still hop on a call and answer that. But for like just base level training, it's harder for us to do by keeping the prices down. We are considering adding a paid onboarding program so that it makes it easier for people to do like for some people who want to do a one-on-one session for onboarding. Cool. There's a question about is there a option to get CSM after so many properties? Usually, if you have 50 properties or more, you do have an account manager that reaches out to you. D. Cool. Anything else that you see, Becca?
Um, Derek, I see your question about the parent-child where you're renting a whole house and then also the apartment separately. We don't have an update for you this month, but stay tuned and we hopefully will have an update for you pretty soon.
Yeah, it's something that's in the works, and hopefully in next 2 to 3 months we should have a rollout on that. All right. Anything else that you see, Becca?
Yeah, I see Rana asked that their prices are low compared to last year, but they're seeing a booking ratio that's higher. That's basically saying that their prices are too low. You can always adjust your base price, right? So your base price is like the foundation of your pricing. And if you think your prices are too low, I'm a huge fan of incremental changes. Revenue management is a little bit of like an art and a science. So you want to maybe run tests, right? So try raising your base price if you think your pricing is too low, and you're getting a lot of bookings, even though the market isn't really performing the way you want it to. Maybe raise your base price 5, 10%. Let it sit there for 2 weeks, see how your bookings have changed. If you're still getting more bookings than the rest of the market, you might be able to push that a little bit more. But I wouldn't necessarily say maybe your base price is 100, you're getting too many bookings and then you change it to 200. That would probably be too drastic. So make some small incremental changes, see how you can kind of push the envelope a little bit. Um, and hopefully that helps. And I
Very
think
cool.
that's
I think we're at
we're pretty much at
at time.
time. Y'all
Yeah.
have some really great questions. This has been awesome. Of course, if y'all have more questions and you're, thinking about something you wish you had asked later today, feel free to reach out to us at support@pricelabs.co. You can also chat our team or email us directly from in product. Thank you all so, so much for your time today on this lovely Thursday morning, evening, or afternoon, depending on where you're joining from. And hopefully we'll see you in some more of those upcoming webinars, whether it's our training webinars or future product updates or special events. Thank you all so much.